Speaking of Massachusetts, that is our next topic and what's going on there. So last week, Uber, Lyft, Massachusetts came to the table and agreed on a deal on driver pay. They agreed on a number of other things. So they have the minimum earnings, like we said, $32.50 per active hour. They're going to give health insurance benefit for 15 hours. And what's crazy about this is it's combined. So if you drive Uber and Lyft, you can combine those hours to hit the 15 to get that healthcare benefit. There's also occupational accident insurance, paid sick leave, paid family medical leave, account deactivation support, live chat support. And yeah, so they struck a pretty big deal, especially when November was going to have 5 ballot measures that were Prop 22 like, trying to get different aspects of Prop 22 into Massachusetts. And now they are pretty much null and voiding that, essentially, when it comes to this agreement. So what do you think, Sergio? What do you think about this?
Yeah, this was quite a bit of a surprise, actually. The settlement, anyway. So there's a settlement of $175 million that came with this because state of Massachusetts was suing Uber and Lyft for all the back pay that they misclassified drivers as independent contractors versus employees. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. The settlement, this is very close to what they did with New York State a few months ago that we talked about, except this has a lot more in the package, and I will put the details out. The 175 million settlement, the disbursement or distribution of that, and the rules and what needs to happen hasn't come out yet. So when it comes out, we'll let you guys know, obviously. So this is I'm sure I'm going to get heat on this, but because most people don't follow this as close as I follow it, Chris, right? And then I initially said this is actually decent, right? Now, I don't like any of these propositions. I like an open, balanced market that Boston is and Massachusetts is. But most drivers drive without understanding what they're about to step into, okay? Because then they come here to get the info and we give it to them straight. Now, a lot of people were saying, yeah, but this is active hour, this is that, right? People, what do you think your alternative was that was on the ballot? And I can assure you, people, that was going to pass with Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Instacart's backing of millions and millions of dollars. They were running the ads already, just like they did in California. That was going to pass. Chris, that was $18 an hour plus 35 cents a mile. $18 an active hour, just like in California. Okay? And it didn't have the healthcare stipend. It didn't have sick time off. It didn't have any of those things, right? And if that proposition had passed, which I'm almost 100% sure that it would have passed, where are drivers? So what happens? Cooler heads prevailed. Uber has been working on this for a long time, for about over a year now. And they came to a resolution with the 175 million settlement. Here's the basics of it. As of August 15th, the floor is going to be $32.50 per active hour. Active hour in this case is period 2 combined with period 3. When we say period 2, that's from the time you accept the request on your way to the passenger to pick them up. That's period 2. With a butt in the back seat, that's period 3 to your destination. So if you're active the whole hour, basically, if you're one of these people, okay, that keeps accepting trip after trip after trip, like our Jeff is, Sunshine Man in South Carolina. He has it on auto accept. He accepts everything. He makes his money. He goes home. A lot of people criticize him, call him ant, this and that, and I called him ant too. But this, if you can fill that 60 minutes with as much P2, P3 time, that's going to be your minimum. Okay? Nobody's saying, like in Raphael's case, he grossed $3,000 in 72 hours. That's $40 an hour. Are they going to lower it to $32.50? No, they're just not going to give him his top off. But if you do spend, time on P2, P3, And somehow the trips that they're sending you, by the way, are not going to be adjusted at 32.50. They're just going to be still the upfront fares that you're seeing you're getting. Okay. If you don't make the 32.50, every 2 weeks, they're going to add up all your P2 and P3 and multiply it times 32.50. If you're short of that, if your earnings are short of that, within 2 days, you're going to get a top off. It's called a top off. This is very, very similar to what we have in California, called Proposition 22. The difference is this is 32.50. In California, Proposition 22 is $20 an hour. So 20 to 32.50 is a massive improvement. There's 2-3 other things in here that we don't have with Prop 22. So that's why I said, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best of the worst situation. This is the best deal that they have offered. In fact, I was talking to a journalist. He goes, with all these deals over the last few months, right? You know, Minnesota, New York State, California. Okay. He goes, can you like line them up for me? Right. So I put Seattle, Washington State up top because there are no minimums. You get paid for P3, $1.60 a mile and 55 cents a minute. That's straight up minutes and miles. Then I put New York City, not state, New York City, because they have TLC rules. They are also on $1.45 a mile and close to 45 cents a minute. Okay. Those two take the top. The reason for that is straight up miles and minutes. That's it. There is no hocus pocus like this, right? Active time, this time, that time. After that comes this deal now, Massachusetts deal. After that comes the New York State deal. After that comes the Minnesota deal. And last comes our deal, which is Proposition 22, right? So this is Uber's playbook. This is what they're going to do going forward in every city and state. And the day after this was announced, Chris, and every time one of these things gets announced, last time when they announced it in New York State with the AG settlement of $350 million and the 26 per active hour settlement, Uber stock the next day went up 17%. Because what is happening is that they're eliminating their top markets and the threat of misclassification lawsuits are going away. And they're getting what they want, which is the drivers staying independent contractors. All of you got this in your emails. I don't have to go into too much detail, but I'll just hit upon a couple of important things. $32.50 per active hour. Number two, what you're going to have is healthcare stipend that goes with it. Okay, so you have to be driving 15 active hours a week to get 50% of the healthcare stipend, and to drive 25 active hours a week to get full healthcare stipend, which will pay for your healthcare. You get this in cash, okay? And this is the best part of all these deals combined, which is you can be driving for Uber and Lyft, both at the same time. For example, in California, it's the same thing, 15 and 25 active hour driving to get a healthcare stipend. But in California, if you drove 24 hours on Uber and none on Lyft, you would only get half the healthcare stipend because you didn't make it to 25. Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
On this one, first time out of all these propositions, Chris, they are allowing the combining of both active hours for Uber and Lyft. So if you drove 14 hours on Uber and 11 hours on Lyft in California, you will not qualify for any healthcare stipend. Nothing. None. In Massachusetts, if you drive 14 hours for Uber active hours and 11 for Lyft, that's 25. You're getting the top healthcare stipend. There is more good things. As of October, this is going to start next year. August 15th is when the 32.50 comes in. October 1 is going to start your pay time, sick leave, sick pay. For every 30 active hours, you're going to get 1 hour of sick pay at a rate of $20 an hour. Okay. There is also here pay time off for family emergencies and things like that. So that's an additional one that doesn't exist on any of the other ones. The rest of it is account deactivation support. This I would have liked to be handled by a third party, but then they kept it internal, which is kind of iffy. And live chat support, that's nonsensical. So to me, this is the best alternative for Massachusetts. A lot of people are saying now, oh, a lot of ants are going to drive. People don't understand 32.50 is active. No, I understand 32.50 is active. And most people will. And a lot of people are saying, oh, is that going to the floor? Is it going to be the ceiling? Time will tell. But I think, considering the alternative that they had two propositions on the ballot that 99% they were going to pass, and they were $18 per active hour and 35 cents a mile, active mile, I think Massachusetts in general, this is definitely a good deal for a bulk of the Massachusetts drivers. I'm not saying it's good for people I know that are super duper cherry pickers. They take advantage of the surge. Look, you can still do that. If you make more than 3250, knock yourself out, make 50. That's not the point. But in general, most drivers accept pretty much everything and they go on their way to make their daily, goal or whatever it is. And I think this is the best deal under the circumstances that drivers could get in Massachusetts. And I think, for me, it ranks third out of all these things that they have passed.
Yep.
I
think
like it. There's not much not to like about this if you're a driver.
Hey everyone, Sergio here with the Rideshare Guy. What do we say on Show Me the Money Club? Work smarter, not harder. If you aren't using the Solo app, which I have been for the past year and a half, you may be working a lot harder than you need to. Let's change that. Download the app, link your account where you can manage your income, track your expenses, as well as your taxes. Not only that, but you can plan by optimizing your time, make more money, and even guarantee your daily pay with guaranteed earnings. Download the Solo app today. Begin to work smarter, not harder. Link is in the description. Let's get back to it.
I think overall it's pretty good. I posted on X when this was announced, and some of the drivers on there were like, well, yeah, there's a problem though, because it's going to mean that all these other drivers are going to come on board. Not necessarily. You're still going to have that double background check, which is going to keep a lot of drivers at bay. And also, the whole thing is it's not $32.50 an hour. It's $32.50 per active hour. So think of the gym for the first 2 weeks of the year. You go to the gym, everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna get fit. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna start, right at the beginning of the year. And it's jam-packed at the gym for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden it's a freaking ghost town again. And you can get your work done. So I have a feeling if there's going to be a surplus of drivers coming on because of that, I think that they're going to probably realize that $32.50 per active time is not $32.50 per hour. And so they're going to be pissed off about that. Secondly, they're going to have not necessarily be making $32.50 for that active hour as well, because they have the 2 week top off. Well, what I'm saying is, if you're a new driver, chances are you might not know what you're doing. And so you might not be making that threshold, which means it will look like you made maybe only 26 per active hour, but you didn't get the top off at the end of the 2 weeks. So that can be another thing that would help keep those new drivers that don't understand the program, quick to quit at that time. So that's what I think about that aspect. When it comes to the pay, I think that's, it's much better than what we have in New York, which is 26. It's a hell of a lot better than what you have by $10. So, that's pretty good there too. It's just a matter of playing the game to your favor and, learning that particular game, because the rule sets is going to change a little bit. So now it's just a matter of zigging and zagging when they tell you to zag and then zag. So it's just a matter of trying to figure those things out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that, except that
Steve.
Here's what I want. Okay, thank you, Steve. Here's what the other thing that you guys also have to understand. As soon as this passed, this agreement was made, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and Instacart pulled those ballot propositions off. They pulled them off. The one that's still on the ballot now, you guys have to listen to this carefully. The one that's still on the ballot, Chris, is the SEIU union ballot that still want to reclassify drivers as employees. That's still on the ballot. There is a chance that ballot gets more than 50% of the vote and we're back to the table. There is a chance. So people understand what you're stepping into. And we do our surveys at the Rideshare Guy continuously. And there's one area, one area that a majority, I would say 80% plus, for one reason or another, drivers agree with Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Instacart and Grubhub and whatever. What is that, Chris? That's that they want to stay independent contractors, correct? And SEIU is still fighting that. SEIU is a union, right? And they left their ballot proposition on it. So it's going to a vote. So come November, if the people of Massachusetts vote for that proposition, this deal will be annulled. And we will go back to the table. But according to Uber and Lyft, they have a counter, party there called Flex, and they're spending a ton of money for that not to pass. Uber and Lyft are pretty optimistic that this is going to stick, that SEIU is not going to be able to convert or get enough votes for that to pass, for that proposition to pass. Again, 3250, you guys have to figure this out. How can you be driving the whole 60 minutes nonstop? Basically, to be nonstop in period 2 and 3, while you're in the car, you will get another ping. You will accept that. Your P2, P3 will cover the whole 60 minutes. From my experience, I know what my utilization rate is in LA. It's about 52% because it's completely oversaturated. Boston or Massachusetts is not a market like that. I exactly know what the utilization rate is for the state of Massachusetts. Okay, 3250. If you're in Boston, your utilization rate is going to be extremely high because demand is such there that it's covering supply, and you can turn your app on and literally nonstop drive for 3 hours, 4 hours. If there's surge involved, you will make more than 3250 anyway. You're not going to get the top off. On all of these deals, people, what I don't like is if there is a top off, why am I waiting 2 weeks for my money? That's the only thing I don't like about all these deals. It's my money that you're going to give me, but why wait 2 weeks? Okay, because I'm under 3250. Let's say you owe me as Uber or Lyft $200. Why am I waiting for my $200? Either this should be weekly or it should be daily. It should not be 2 weeks that I have to wait for you to float the money at 5% interest rates these days. That's the one thing that I'm completely against. But legislators, do what they do. They don't know, and they accept it. This could easily be done. Pay the driver at the end of every day, whatever they're short, but they go 2 weeks, and I'm not liking that. But for my money, this is as good as a deal in this proposition world that we're going to fight going forward is going to be. And with the paid sick leave, with the healthcare stipend, with all of these things, I think it's a pretty good deal for a majority of Massachusetts drivers. So.
I think not talking about the vote that's going to be coming up about employee versus independent contractor, but looking at the ballot that was originally proposed to have it 18 versus 32. I mean, if you're saying, oh, this is a crappy deal, I mean, you guys, you may have to rethink things. You got to stop being a first order thinker and start looking a little beyond.
How many people, Chris, in Florida that we see those numbers, horrible numbers, right? How many people in Texas, Austin and Houston and San Antonio and Miami and all these, how many people would take this deal? I think
all of them.
Yeah.
I think 99% would.
And by the way, let's finish this because I can go on this, but here's the deal. Without the union help, without legislator help, without organizing, none of this would be possible. None. So that's where the driver community comes into play. Okay. Now, people like unions, people don't like unions, but without SEIU pushing all the way to the court systems, the misclassification issue and the AG taking that up, Massachusetts AG, this deal would not be possible. So this is when unions come into play. This is when Washington Driver Union comes into play. This is where the actual unions like SEIUs and IDGs come into play. So you guys must understand, you can't just lay over and play dead and expect Uber to give you a deal like this. This deal only happened because they had pushback. And the pushback was, we're going to make everybody employees, and Uber, you're going to be screwed. So Uber is, not completely unreasonable as people think. They come to the table, they signed a deal that's favorable to them. They think it's favorable for the majority of the drivers in Massachusetts, and now we have a deal. Beats the alternative any day. Beats Proposition 22 that I have in California by miles, like miles. Okay. And I told Uber this actually. If you bring this to California, I think you will have no problem with Proposition 22 being enjoyed by everybody, specifically the combination of the two active hours being combined, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what we have in California is peanuts compared to what they just got. So,
Yeah. And I'd love to see New York bring a couple more things too, like
yeah.
that combined.
Yeah.
That would be good. And then even paid family leave would be nice too. So,
Well, no, I actually, you know what? I asked Uber, I go, why didn't you guys do the healthcare stipend? Why didn't you guys do a lot of this in New York? Because they came with the 26 active, right? In New York State. They said because they have the BCF. BCF is the Black Car Fund, right? So if a driver gets hurt, they have workers' comp, they have other things that they're collecting, and the driver's getting help through that, through the BCF. On each trip, there's a BCF charge. But there is also sick leave in New York as well, New York State.
Yeah.
So look, these deals are happening because they're getting the pushback. Uber does not want anybody to become their employees other than their actual employees. They don't want any drivers. They all want to stay independent contractors, and they're getting what they want. And the states are getting what they want. Legislators are, parading, saying, "Oh, look, we got a great deal." Everybody's doing it, but us as drivers, I like this deal. I'm not an enemy of this deal. And hopefully the next deal, because there's a huge fight coming up in Chicago, Illinois. There's one coming up in Portland, Oregon, with our brothers up there with the help of Washington Drivers Union. There's another one coming up in Virginia. Hopefully all these deals, Chris, are going to get better and better and better, right? So we'll see. We'll see.
And then we'll just have to circle back around and re-up the old deals.
And you said circle around. This has an inflation adjustment too, by the way. So the 3250 is not flat 3250 like in California. We don't have that. If inflation is 4% next year, that's going to go up to like 4% to 34. If it's another 4%, it's going to go to 36. So it's going to get adjusted every year with inflation.
That's good.
All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.